Hello, welcome to the fifth topic, communicate and collaborate with stakeholders. And we are still in lesson 4, lead the project team. If you recall, in lesson 2, entitled Start the Project, there was a whole topic dedicated to identifying and engaging with stakeholders. It was the second topic of that lesson. And in that topic, we defined who a stakeholder is. And we talked about how we need to understand that definition before we can go ahead and start identifying who is a stakeholder for our project and who is not a stakeholder in our project. And then we talked about how we get to know more about stakeholders by assessing and analyzing what makes them a stakeholder. There are certain attributes, certain characteristics, like their power, their authority, their legitimacy, their interest, their impact, their attitude towards the project. What is it that is in for them in this project? Why are they positive about the project? Why are they negative about the project? And then in doing that, we use certain tools like the power interest grid, the stakeholder cube, the directions of influence, the stakeholder, the salience model, and so on. And these tools are very important in trying to find ways, strategies to engage with stakeholders effectively. We also talked about the stakeholder engagement assessment matrix, a tool that assesses our level of engagement and a desired level of engagement. And with that tool, we can set in place a strategy to engage stakeholders effectively. It's also a tool that helps us to monitor where we are in terms of our engagement with particular stakeholders. So this topic is going to be a continuation of what we saw in lesson 2. This quote by Nitin Noria says, communication is the real work of leadership. Frankly, if you look back to the table of understanding management and leadership, we say that leadership is about using the power that comes from our relationship. And we don't relate with people without communicating with them. One of the tools that is used in trying to assess and analyze stakeholders is the stakeholder 2-dimension power interest grid or power influence grid. And so we can use this tool at regular intervals. Why? Because stakeholder engagement is a proactive and continuous process. Because stakeholders do change at various times in the project. So we need to be updating this grid at key intervals because of the changing nature of stakeholders. Now, if, for example, a stakeholder changes or certain aspects of that stakeholder, maybe attributes or characteristics changes, we need to also update our records. And the record for managing stakeholder is the stakeholder register. We need to tailor stakeholder engagement strategies and actions to suit a particular stakeholder. Okay, so recall how this works. Okay, I'm not going to go through it. The communications management plan is a very important tool in predictive projects, which can be tailored to other projects approaches. And this communication management plan identifies who in our team will be communicating with stakeholders and the type of information that they'll be sharing, the reasons for communication, the language, the format, the content, the level of detail, the time frame, the frequency, and so on. This plan will also have processes or templates or guidance for escalation, for updating and refining this very plan, and how meetings will be run. It will also contain certain project information. For example, communication technologies. Some people are very comfortable with a Zoom call or email. Some people prefer face-to-face. It might not only be a preference, but certain aspects, certain project aspects necessitate certain technologies or methods to be used. Also, what are the resources allocated for communication? Sometimes in very technical or complex projects, we need to have a glossary that defines certain terms so that people understand what they are, and so on. Note that the communications management plan, even though we touched on it briefly in lesson 2, is part of the project management plan, which we saw in lesson 3. Communication is best in a two-way, and I had mentioned earlier or in previous videos what active listening is. It's listening to get 100% of what the sayer or the sender is saying. Active listening builds trust. It enables collaboration. It's about making sure that we are listening well, we are asking questions, sometimes paraphrasing, and also watching the body language of the sender. What is body language? Another word for it is kinesics. We should also listen to the pitch and the tone of voice, what is called paralingual. Another terminology for two-way communication is effective feedback. Feedback should be done timely, should be done in a clear, specific manner. If it is positive, it means that it's been received and understood properly. If not, then there is obviously misunderstanding. Now, in our projects, there will be some reports and formal communication that will be, we will expect, especially in predictive projects. For example, the project charter, team charter, contracts, WBS, the baselines. These are formal communication. That means somebody has to sign their signature on it. Not anybody, of course. Somebody who occupies a position of authority. So people are going to receive certain reports at certain times should be noted in the communications management plan and the stakeholder engagement plan. Now, how do we collaborate in a project team? We've been talking about collaboration a lot, okay? Continuous engagement, keeping in touch, making sure that we are transparent in our decisions, okay? Using whiteboards, Zoom tools, phone calls, meetings, using interpersonal and team skills, understanding why we are actually in the work that we are doing, engaging with people, resolving conflicts, bringing people into certain activities like creating a work breakdown structure, a team charter, user stories, doing estimates, trying not to do something alone, especially project managers who think that they know everything. Collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Information radiators are a very effective way to communicate and collaborate with stakeholders. What is an information radiator, and what are some examples? This is an agile term. It's about making sure that information about a project is visible to as many people as possible. So you put posters, electronic boards in open common areas so that people are aware of what is going on in the project. Now let's talk about some examples of information radiators. Kanban boards, whiteboards, Wikipedias, posters, bulletin boards, websites, fishbowl window. Now, what is a fishbowl window? I'll give you two examples. A fishbowl window essentially is a scheduled time slot for real-time collaboration where with team members who are in different geographical locations. Sometimes you can create a real-time video link between these locations, and you set a time in the project calendar where you have that real-time communication. Another example of a fishbowl window is to have a situation where people are discussing a particular problem. You might have three key members just putting their heads together and other peripheral members who are just listening. The primary goal of a fishbowl window is to facilitate spontaneous interaction and collaboration among team members. And this is also another agile term, because agile is about communication, it's about collaboration in a speedy manner. These are examples of information radiators. It could be electronic board, it could be a poster, it could be a Kanban board, and so on. There are various collaboration activities, for example, daily stand-ups, creation of the team charter, the work breakdown structure, face-to-face working, schedule meetings, brainstorming, pairing or coaching, negotiations, team building activities, creating a work breakdown structure, writing user stories, working with a product owner to select work items that need to go into a different backlog, doing estimates together, working on risk together, and so on. So many, if not, I'll say 80% of the planning activities and some of the things that we talked about in the project should be opportunities for collaboration. Negotiation. The PMI says that the goal for negotiation is to, number one, have a win-win between the two parties, especially when we are in a contract situation. Number two, should be to have a mutually beneficial relationship between the parties. Okay? So negotiations are conversations where we are trying to get into some sort of agreement. Sometimes we are ceding our position to the benefit of others. Sometimes we are negotiating about money, about scope of work, about responsibilities. So it's a very crucial skill to manage stakeholder expectations, to resolve conflicts, to achieve agreement. There are various types of negotiations. Sometimes it could be formal negotiation, like in a contract, or informal negotiation with our team members when it comes to defining and executing tasks. When you are in a negotiation, be professional, be positive, and don't be too time constrained. Sometimes negotiations take time. Okay? Always go for a win-win. Always be prepared. Learn about the other party. It's all about preparation. Meetings. Meetings are very important tools in any project. There is what happens before meetings, there's what happens during meetings, and there's what happens after meetings. So let's talk about it. Meetings should be well prepared, well planned, well executed, and well followed up. Every meeting should have a purpose and an agenda. Only invite people who should be in the meeting. Every meeting should have a facilitator and somebody to take notes or minutes. If you are having a meeting in a location, make sure that that location is well prepared in advance. If it's in a hotel, don't just rely on what the staff tell you. Go there beforehand to check for preparedness, to make sure that the food, the snacks, the writing materials, the electronic projection, computers, laptops, and all those things are in place and working. The lighting and all that, the room, the smell, everything should be perfect. Now, during the meeting, let's make sure that we stick to the agenda. We respect time, because people's times, everybody is valuable. Their times are valuable. Avoid people hijacking the meeting. Also, try and avoid people just sitting down, not participating. Okay? If when the minutes are shared, people should chip in, because sometimes the person taking minutes might miss out on certain aspects of the minutes. And if there's actions, it should be followed up, because a meeting is complete when there is the before aspect, which is properly done, the during and the after, so that meetings become very productive, so that when we come back into the next meeting, then we should know that there's been the actions which were supposed to be carried out have been carried out. The stakeholder engagement assessment matrix, like I said, is a good tool to know where we are with the engagement, and also to come up with strategies. If we are not moving, meaning as regards to a particular stakeholder, we have not moved the C's to D's, then we should change strategy or change the person doing the engagement. In a sense, come up with ways to move the engagement forward. So use your interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, your expert judgment to assess where we are with stakeholder engagement. So this is all for this particular topic. It was not a long video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.